Now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. In this hour, we're going to be speaking to Dr. Amit Goswami about quantum physics and the healing power of integral medicine. But don't forget, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by SoulHealer.com and the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's www.appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter that will keep you informed of all the excellent programming we have here on Just Energy Radio. You can also access our over 5 years' worth of archives of shows just like this. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Goswami and get him on the air. Amit Goswami is the author of the highly successful textbook, Quantum Mechanics. His 2-volume textbooks for non-scientists, The Physicist's View of Nature, traces the decline and rediscovery of the concept of God within science. Goswami has also written 8 popular books based on his research on quantum physics and consciousness. In his seminal book, The Self-Aware Universe, he solved the quantum measurement problem, elucidating the famous observer effect while paving the path to a new paradigm of science based on the primacy of consciousness. So please welcome to Just Energy Radio, Dr. Amit Goswami. Hi, Amit. How are you?
Hi, Rita. I'm good.
I always love having you come on. You know that? Were your ears burning last weekend because we were talking about you? Someone was asking me who my favorite guest on the show was, and you were the person that came to my mind first. Boom. So,
oh, that's very nice of you, Rita. It's wonderful to be acknowledged. That's good.
So your new book, The Quantum Doctor, how did a quantum physicist like yourself become involved with the study of health and healing?
Well, all of my writing projects have a story behind it. So, I have, when I was working on my major work, which is the solution of the quantum measurement problem, right around that time, Deepak Chopra's book, Quantum Healing, came out. And, we physicists are no exception to this rule. Basically, people who do research, and they're a little bit of scientists especially, are a little bit of jealous of each other. So I was completely aware that quantum healing took the book world by surprise, and it was becoming a bestseller. And, of course, I read the book and liked it, and begrudgingly admitted that this is a very good book. But there it ended. I did not have anything to say about it at that time because I just did not know enough at all about the health situation or medicine. So years passed, and then Beverly Rubik, who is alternative scientist like me, she asked me to write she was doing something on healing ontology, and she asked me to write a chapter on her ontology. So it was a challenge. So I said, all right, I have not looked into it seriously, but now I will, and I do want to look at it. So I did, and it surprised me that I have something to say. First, about a theory of quantum healing, more complete, similar in line with Deepak, but more complete. And surprisingly, I found also an explanation of vital energy and became interested in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, and started making some comments about how vital energy medicine could be included along with mainstream medicine, and mind-body medicine too can be included along with mainstream medicine within the context that we have created with this new science. If consciousness is the ground of being, then in this ground, not only matter can exist as a possible world, but so can the vital energy world, so can the mental world, so can even a supramental world of values. So, Carl Jung suggested, I was aware of this research too, that there are 4 kinds of personality traits that people have: sensing, feeling, thinking, and intuition. And I realized that this must be the basis of a 4-fold world within that ground of being that consciousness is. And if you do that, then of course you can have a theory of medicine that would be not only allopathic medicine, which is really material medicine, but also include vital body medicine and mental body medicine and even supramental body medicine, even medicine for the whole enchilada, consciousness itself. So disease can occur because we are not quite whole in any of these connections that we have. And healing must restore that connection. So it was this kind of idea that then enthused me a whole bunch. It took a few more years of research to actually write a book, but there we are.
But I think one of the things that struck me in reading the book is that, somebody like Deepak Chopra, which, his work is wonderful, but he's a medical doctor, and so he comes from the health and healing perspective just starting off. For someone like yourself, you're a physicist, And so the way you look at it and the way you look at the data, whether it is analytical data versus subjective data, is going to be different than somebody like Deepak. Not saying anything bad about him, but just, your framework of viewing the information is going to be different.
Yes, it is, and it goes both ways. It's different, and that's my strength. My weakness, of course, is that I never went through the proper medical training, so I don't know many basic things, simple things about medicine. That's the weakness. But these subjects are very open right now because a paradigm shift is going on. Therefore, at once the subject is very sophisticated. No question that material body medicine, the sophistication they bring, especially like surgery and stuff, no question that it takes years to pick up that kind of sophistication. But about the basic questions, really medicine is very, very much open in the sense that nobody really knows. Some simple things, like, doctors don't really understand what pain is. So, this gives me a leverage because anybody then coming from a different point of view will have an advantage over these traditional thinkers, because traditional thinkers only can think in terms of, okay, so what painkiller can I give, or, okay, pain must be something connected with nerves or brain or whatever. They just cannot think in terms of a vital energy body which can be disconnected with the material body and therefore pain. This concept will just not occur to them because their mind is not open enough to venture outside of the dogma that everything is matter. You see, so it plays very well. And this is why, although I'm a quantum physicist, I'm making contributions which are very, very worthwhile and timely for many of these fields, psychology, medicine, even economics, because people just don't think in this new way. They have been too accustomed to thinking that old way, everything is matter.
Well, and kind of what blew my mind a little bit, Amit, is that I'm reading this book, and it's talking about the vital body, and I didn't think physicists believed in stuff like that. They just believed in half-dead cats and string theories and particles and tachyons and not invisible, subtle things. And so let me ask this question. So from a physics point of view, is there credibility to the whole concept of subtle energy or a vital body?
Well, there are two things that intervenes in the physicist way of looking, traditional physicist way of looking at things. That belief system that everything is matter intervenes enormously. As soon as you have put on a straitjacket like that, it's a very powerful straitjacket. It explains a lot of things. And because it explains a lot of things, they tend to think that this is something that is kind of the rule of the universe. Once you have a strong belief system like that, it is very hard to think otherwise. So that's the main difficulty. As far as subtle is concerned, quantum physics should liberate everyone, because the thing is that these elementary particles that physicists have discovered, they are very subtle. There's no question that they are not by any means all the gross properties that we attribute to matter, like fixity, doesn't exist for these very subtle quantum objects. They are possibilities, after all. They don't even exist until we observe them. So if you have subtle, this is subtle already. So I think it's that prejudice that everything has to be matter and material interaction that prevents them even from seeing the fact that they are already delving into subtle, but not understanding that subtle cannot possibly have any role to play by the time you get to the brain with the reductionistic ideas like, elementary particles make atoms, make molecules, make cells, make brain. Brain is too far removed from the world of elementary particles for the subtlety of elementary particles to affect the brain. This is what they don't understand. So therefore, if somebody has a phenomenon in the body where brain is involved, like pain, for example, you cannot invent anything that is happening with the elementary particles to understand what is happening in the brain. But that's all they have. All cause rises from the elementary particles all the way to the brain. So in principle, their theory is that everything is understandable by these elementary particle interactions. But elementary particle interactions have nothing to do with the brain level, because the levels are so far removed. And therefore they are stuck with a way of thinking. This happens. Once you get stuck with a way of thinking, you cannot come out of it. I was free of it. For me, on the other hand, if you start with consciousness as the ground of being, as I said, you can very easily include the vital world as a separate world within consciousness, because consciousness mediates the connection. Usually people reject these ideas because what they call dualism. How do these subtle worlds interact with the material world? But we have solved that problem. The answer is non-locality. Consciousness mediates the interaction non-locally. Non-local means without any signals. You don't exchange any signal in order to communicate, because consciousness has that power, non-local power, automatically. This consciousness at which we connect with these bodies, this consciousness is non-local. Now, agreed that the consciousness we usually experience is local, very individual. But there is an answer to that. That happens because of conditioning. If we go beyond conditioning, as we do sometimes get into consciousness beyond conditioning, in those moments we feel very non-local. Everybody has those feelings. Even Freud called them oceanic feelings. We feel like we are in an ocean, we are unlimited. Where do those feelings come from? They come from the intuition that we are indeed part of a consciousness which is infinite.
Hello, Amit, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
I just gotta love it. Anyway, so I don't know where we were, but I'll just come up with a question right now.
Sure.
And so you were talking about non-locality and consciousness being non-local. So does that, when you talk about non-local, are we talking about things like telepathy and intuition and being able to sense other people's energy, or are we talking about something even bigger than that?
Well, telepathy is a non-local phenomenon, so in that sense we are talking about the same thing, but it is also bigger in the sense that many other phenomena than just telepathy. Telepathy is in the level of the mind, but then non-locality also exists in the level of the vital energy. We feel literally somebody else's energy. This is a common theme in Chinese medicine. They have Taoist healers who can actually, through moving their hands, they can control this qi, which is another name for vital energy, and heal people. There is that through that domain, and then big domain for non-locality is our intuition, through which we connect to the supramental world. And the supramental world, of course, is the biggie for human beings. The values come from that. Love, beauty, justice, truth, goodness. All this stuff is non-local stuff. We deal with them only through the non-local consciousness. And therefore, the scope of the non-locality, this quantum concept, just goes much further than just psychic phenomenon. It goes into the basis of what the human being is. Human being is about realizing this domain which we are just beginning to investigate, this domain of supramental, beyond thinking, beyond feeling, about love, beauty, justice, truth, goodness, abundance, these things in a very, very abstract way of thinking. We sometimes, we think about these things, and as soon as you think about these things, we feel elevated. That's good reason for it. Elevated consciousness is what? It's a touch of that non-locality.
So what does this all have to do with the nature of illness? Because as we all know, illness is physical in nature, isn't it?
Illness is illness
I'm
has
being
a
tricky
physical
on you.
I know. Illness has a physical component. I mean, this is a common way that materialists attack the problem now, because there is a physical something that we cannot deny. That is the part that we certainly undeniably notice, that something is wrong with the physical body. But the question, of course, is there simultaneously something wrong with some other body that we have? We can stay with the prejudice that the physical body is everything. Then we just treat the symptoms. This is what allopathic medicine does. The vital body medicine or mental body medicine, mind body medicine, they take a different approach. Their approach is that maybe the cause is not at the physical level. Of course, there is physical symptoms. Nobody can deny that. And of course, eventually we have to alleviate the physical symptoms. That's where the suffering is mainly. But their theory is that there is an additional level of being that we have. We don't just live in our physical body. We also live in a vital body. We live in a mental body. We think, we feel. And therefore, the idea is that if we have to heal these other bodies, if that's what the disease is. If the disease is blockage of energy, vital energy in the heart chakra, absence or lack of love because of some mental beliefs, then it's not going to help to just relieve the physical symptoms, not going to heal. It's going to cure temporarily, but only the symptoms. The symptoms will return. And so their approach is that we have to remove the vital energy block. The person has to learn to love again. So we have to remove the mental block, and for that we need creativity. We need to, it's a whole different approach. But notice how flexible our healing process becomes, and how much more versatile. This is why we call it integral medicine. We integrate all the different ways. Allopathy is included. No need to exclude it. If there is a symptom which is urgently need to be taken care of course we take care of the symptom first. But if it is not so urgent, then we go back to the roots. We try to first heal the body where the defect has occurred. If the body is defective because of some problem with vital energy or disconnection of vital energy and the physical, then we heal the vital body first. And that automatically will heal the physical. Did that make sense?
It totally makes sense to me. I mean, that's one of my big stories. I mean, I believe that the majority of illness in individuals is associated with limiting beliefs and, bad thoughts and information that they have,
Absolutely.
That just filters down into their physical body as disease.
Absolutely.
There's one question. No, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
There's a question that I'm asked, and I'd like to get your opinion. Since we're kind of talking about this mind-body causation, and have you found, that the mind-body causation underlies everything in our physical issues, Or can a cold just be a cold and a broken leg just be a broken leg? I get asked that a lot, so I'm passing it on to you because you're the smart guy.
This is a very good question. This question needs to be very carefully addressed. Yes, a cold can be just a cold in one sense. Cold is a virus comes and attacks our body. That's an external object, and indeed it attacks our body, and therefore it is certainly there will be symptoms in the body, physical body. And if medicine had any way of treating this virus or getting rid of the virus, then of course we would just do physical body medicine. But even in this case, allopathic medicine has nothing to contribute. If the cold virus, their only way that you can do an allopathic treatment of cold is to take a vaccine. Vaccination, if that works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that's the only real approach is available in allopathy. There is no other approach because you cannot get rid of the virus. The medicine has no way to get rid of the virus. You just have to deal with it. And that is where the vital body comes in again, because the virus has attacked the physical. So what happens, physical vital connection is now affected, right? Because physical and vital are connected when they are both healthy. But if the physical gets a defect, unhealth, disease, then vital is no longer connecting with it properly. And so the discomfort that we feel when a cold comes or flu virus, so when a flu virus comes, the discomfort that we feel is entirely due to the disconnection, temporary disconnection between the physical and the vital. So then, vital energy treatments can be given to make it better, make the connection better, because vital, it turns out, behavior of the vital is not as fixed as the behavior of the physical. Physical is very fixed in the macroscopic level. This is why Mr. Newton was successfully doing his thing 350 years ago, because for physical we don't need the quantum at the macro level, or at least don't need it very much. For the vital, however, it's quantum behavior all the way. There is no such thing as Newtonian behavior. So vital is very creative, in other words. So if you are a vital body physician, you can do little adjustments, creative adjustments. You can give a vital energy tonic, you can use acupuncture, you can use homeopathy. All these things provide you with vital energy healing of the vital, in the sense that the vital will be brought in more adjustment to the diseased physical. Only temporarily, because of course the physical will get better, then automatically the vital, original vital should again connect with the physical. But right now the physical is diseased, and so the vital body adjusting the vital to fit with the physical is a very good way of dealing with the discomfort. You see what I mean? So this is why if you have a flu or a cold, in fact you should not ever go and waste your money on an allopathic doctor, because allopathic doctor really cannot help you. There's nothing they can do except aspirin, of course, is quite a harmless allopathic disease, and only good things come with it. So if you are not, there's some stomach problem that can occur with aspirin. If you don't have that problem, then by all means, aspirin is okay, but that won't intervene with vital body medicine. But the only way that you can get healing is actually homeopathy is very good for dealing with cold or fever of any kind, or flu. Then other medicines, acupuncture I already mentioned, just simple hands-on, hands-off healing like Reiki is useful, because these simple adjustments bring that comfort level back, and that's all we can do. They're really, until the virus runs out, you cannot do very much in either medicine. I mean, it's not a vital body disease, and therefore healing the vital is not going to help with the virus. Vital has no control over. So, but the vital body medicine can make you feel better, much better than any physical body medicine, and I include aspirin with that. The integral medicine would not hesitate to accept aspirin also. Aspirin is okay.
Chicken soup.
Chicken soup is the best, yeah, because
that's right.
Because what happens is that you get mother's love with chicken soup. No, it's only with chicken soup works only if a loving person gives it to you. By the way, otherwise chicken soup is not all that effective.
Well, I never thought of it from that perspective, but I think you're right. But when somebody is giving us love, that can help energize, and I don't want to say support, but I'll say support our vital energy and kind of give us a pickup so that our energy works better so that we can feel better in our physical body.
It's even better than that because love has to do with the immune system because the immune system is the heart chakra organ. So love directly affects our immunity. So if somebody gives you love, you would probably not have the cold in the first place. But since you have the cold, if somebody brings you love fresh, the immune system will get stronger, and that is ultimately much better for healing of any disease than anything else, because if the immune system is strong, then the immune system can establish immunity against these viruses very easily.
I don't know. My husband makes some pretty good Campbell's soup, Amit, and he brings it out with all kinds of love.
See, that's what I mean. The Campbell's soup is nutritionally not very good, any canned food. But his love makes up for it.
That's right. And I'm going to throw these out if you don't really have an answer, because I'm kind of throwing out hard ones that I usually save for my more medical people. But what about issues such as fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue? I mean, from a medical point of view, they can never find anything, and it's kind of the last-ditch, well, you must have fibromyalgia diagnosis. Do you think that what the person is actually experiencing is not so much of something going on with their physical body, but much more occurring in their vital body?
Yeah, this is the thing. Pain in the new way of looking is due to a disconnect between the physical and the vital. So for the fibromyalgic, or even worse, the chronic fatigue, for these people, fibromyalgic is more or less only in the muscles, but chronic fatigue is all over the body. For these people, the vital physical disconnect is almost total, and that's why the pain hardly ever stops. This is very hard for allopathic physicians to accept, and indeed, even now, many people don't accept it, but there is some reluctant admission that too many people are suffering from it, so one might as well accept the existence of the disease. But physical medicine has nothing to say about it, because what can you do? Physical body will not be easily changed. It's not creative. It's not quantum. It's very fixed. So the vital has to be fixed. And the vital, as I said, is creative, is quantum, and therefore the vital can be adjusted. But don't get the idea that vital can heal it completely. Vital cannot heal it. The healing is much more complicated. Then you have to take a quantum leap of making real changes in the vital physical whole conglomerate, and then you can start a new life sort of. So healing chronic fatigue is much more difficult than keeping it controlled. What vital body medicine does is to keep it controlled, because it, as I said, it changes the vital body in a creative way to fit the situation. So vital has gone out of connection with the physical. You change the vital. That is easier to do because vital is more quantum. It's more susceptible to change. So you change the vital to readjust to the physical. Will that change be permanent? No, it won't be. It will go back to its normal situation sooner or later. So you have to use the vital again and again. So if the insurance companies become aware of it, then of course they would allow acupuncture not just one time and expect for a miracle. No, not that way. But you have to allow acupuncture to come in every now and then so that the vital energy is fixed again and again and again. If people just understood how it works, that it's not a permanent healing. Permanent healing, one really have to take creativity and quantum leap very seriously. that only the person can do. And can that be done? Yes, it can be done. Same way that people are healing their cancers. There are many cases where people are today using creativity, quantum healing to heal their cancers. And so in the same way, this chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia can be treated like that. But that requires a lot of creative effort, and many people don't have that tenacity, capacity to stay with the problem so seriously and take it so seriously as a creative burning question to make that quantum leap. So that is only a solution for a few people, because, chronic fatigue is not urgent enough. Cancer is urgent, so more people can use creativity when something is pressing you like that. It becomes a burning question. It's a question of life and death. Nobody dies because of chronic fatigue anytime soon, and therefore it's very difficult to bring that creative energy, that creative urgency in the picture. So for them, then, the regular vital energy treatment like with acupuncture or homeopathy or Ayurveda, this is a very good strategy.
And so what you're saying by taking this leap of faith is that they would really need to change their beliefs and their emotions, or at least address them, that are actually creating the pain in the vital body in the first place. Right,
over a time. What has happened is that usually these chronic fatigue people are depressed people. They would suffer from lifelong depression. What that means is that they would suppress a lot of stuff. They would have emotional reaction, but they would suppress it. And they would suppress it, and they would suppress it. And so this suppression becomes a vital energy block in all of the chakras. So nothing in the vital is connected to the organs, The vitality of the organs are affected almost through the whole body. And therefore, chronic fatigue. Therefore, if it's just to the muscles, fibromyalgia. So, this is a very serious and occurs over time. These suppressive characters, you have to really watch these mild depressive characters, suppressive characters. They have to really make a lot of change in their whole outlook of life. It's not so easy. They have to bring what causes depression is that satisfaction is very hard to achieve for these people. They are not satisfied. And depression is a crown chakra disease. And crown chakra energy vitality brings us satisfaction. So how to bring satisfaction in their life is the real problem. But there is some research which is now available. Research is showing that indeed if we provide vital energy for the higher chakras, then satisfaction can be achieved. For example, people studied people who give. There was a sample of people who gave, and it was found that indeed they are much less depressed when they give than otherwise. Giving works even better than Prozac was the conclusion that I read. So this kind of study is showing that indeed the vital energy approach is very appropriate. So if we took out these people, if a parents, for example, notice this slight depression in their children, they could immediately attract the attention of these people, these children or adults, immediately to activities which would activate the higher chakras. Activities like love, giving, expression, that's the throat chakra, intuition, that's sixth chakra, the brow chakra, and of course the crown chakra, overall satisfaction of life. If we took care of this as a society, if we could match people of what job they want and what job satisfies people and give them made available those particular jobs, we are a very economically very advanced society. We can do these things, I mean, this is the reason that I'm looking at spiritual economics. We can do these things. Today, America is such an advanced country and so much availability of resources. We really, if we just didn't feel sorry for ourselves and all this stuff, we could really start taking care of ourselves, and not in the physical dimension. We don't need that anymore. We have done that, been there, done that. Really, we should pay attention to the vital, the mental, and the supramental. If we did that, we'll encounter health at a level that we have not experienced before. And at the same time, it will bring the health cost way down because we won't suffer from diseases as much as we do for nothing.
We're not taught. I mean, I think this paradigm's changing, but we're not taught to look at our emotional state. We're not taught to look at our behaviors. And so if I don't like myself, if I think that people hate me, if I'm feeling depressed, if I get into a confrontatory situation, instead of holding my ground, I back off my energy and just suppress, as you were talking about before. You know, we're not taught to look at that and go, well, what is the healthy way of being versus, you know, well, this is just me, and just accepting that that's how the world is, and not, you know, we're not taught that it's not right and we should try to change it.
Yeah, we are not taught that exactly. We have had very little understanding of any other dimension than the physical dimension. And right now we are suffering from this belief system of scientific materialism, which most scientists believe, and the newspapers have bought that belief system lock, stock, and barrel, and this is hurting the whole culture. The culture has become so materially centered that people cannot even think in terms of vital energy, mental beliefs, and mental goodness, and of course supramental that I'm emphasizing a lot because that's what creativity is about. And this supramental directly contribute to these higher chakra feelings. We have forgotten this aspect of life almost entirely because love, for example, in the scientific materialism, love is just sex. A better way of expressing it, maybe more conducive to finding a partner, and therefore we do it, but it has no value. It's just an epiphenomenon of the language that we use in order to entice. You know, it's just genes playing their own selfish game. That's the belief that dominates people. And so when that happens, we start eliminating love in the higher sense of the higher chakra. In other words, when people have sex without heart chakra feelings, that's one kind of sex. And sex with heart chakra feeling is a completely different kind of sex. But if you don't know about the other, then you would be quite satisfied with the first, and you are ignoring a part of your being without realizing that this will later on cause disease for yourself. But you don't know any better. So we have become a nation of ignorant people who, because of their ignorance, is ignoring part of themselves, which are very, very important for our well-being. In the case of healing, it really is pathetic because we're making ourselves a sick nation, but we don't have any reason to. Our material needs are so satisfied, we really can pay attention to our higher needs today. We have the capacity. People who live in other cultures and other countries, they can be poor in material terms, but they have not forgotten their vital, their mental, and their supramental, and therefore sometimes health-wise, they're better off. Of course, they're not better off in terms of hygiene. Hygiene is the, basic reason for ill health, by the way. That continues. And therefore, you cannot do the statistical study of these things and get very far because, non-advanced economies will statistically still show that they have a lot of ill health because their hygienic conditions are not good. But if you could have good hygiene there because of their superiority in terms of mental and vital, they really would be of better health than Americans, hands down, because Americans, because of their materialist beliefs, do not take care of their bodies very well because they ignore the vital and the mental and the supramental.
But we are, I think materialism distracts us from everything else that's going on, outside of our conscious awareness.
Yeah, distraction is a very, very good word because the thing is that it takes a little effort to engage the higher chakra feelings. That is true. It takes a little effort because you don't have brain circuits for the higher chakra feelings. You have brain circuits only for the low chakra feelings, such as, competitiveness and anger and sexuality and all that stuff. So the brain circuits, to engage the brain circuit is automatic. Stimulus comes automatically, the brain circuits will be activated. So you don't have to put any effort. But to love someone, you have to make some effort. You see what I mean? And that's why, of course, given a bad belief system, we really become very base people. Today we see a lot of angry people. Why? Because love takes effort, whereas anger takes no effort. You have a stimulus, you become angry. If somebody doesn't agree with you, you become angry. Something doesn't suit you, you become angry. So because circuits are already there to serve your anger. But on the other hand, love, we don't have correspondingly a circuit in the brain, so automatic behavior is impossible. For love, you have to really be inspired to love someone. So this is a difficulty which, unless we are aware what we are missing, we are going to succumb more and more and more and more. And today we live in such a polarized worldview country. One side holds on to an archaic worldview called Christianity, and the other side takes on a very incomplete, equally incomplete, or even more incomplete in some sense, worldview, namely scientific materialism. So we are between rock and a hard place. I mean, this is really a very severe problem that we are facing in America. Unless somebody finds not only integral medicine, how to find an integral society, integral worldview, this consciousness is the ground of being, this kind of worldview can, of course, heal America just like that. But who will tell people this story, except for people such as you or me who are trying their best to bring these notions into the forefront. The media is totally sold on scientific materialism.
I kind of don't agree with the amount of polarity that you were just talking about. Granted, there is definitely the Christian aspect, but I think there is a rising and growing number of people that are starting to recognize the connection of mind-body and that there is something more to healing than just going to the doctor. And I just feel like these people don't know where to go, don't know the resources. It's not covered by their insurance. That's a big one that I get.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that people are not aware that they have alternative place to go. But because of the media and their monopoly over what to publicize, it's not easy to find out unless you are an internet savvy person. You cannot discover this alternative stuff very easily. That's what I'm saying. I don't disagree with you. I think there are a lot of people. Paul Ray, sociologist Paul Ray, who is a friend of mine, he did a study of the number of people who might become interested in new paradigm thinking in America, and his result was astounding. He claims that some 20% of Americans can be called cultural creatives. That's his term, who are ready to bring creativity in their living style and culture. So you are quite right that way. But the media is not helping at all. Even 15, 20 years ago when I started my work, media was very willing to do stories on alternative research and alternative ideas. But nowadays, you have major findings in these areas, and media is very reluctant to cover, except, of course, celebrities like Deepak still get some media support. But otherwise, it's very difficult to create media interest, even when major results are available, major results are taking place, major conferences with major announcements are taking place. The media just doesn't pay any attention, at least in America. In Brazil, I find the situation is much better. The attention is much easier to get. So smaller countries sometimes have the same advantage. But big countries like America and India is the same way. It's very difficult to get. The media is totally sold on scientific materialism.
In India? It's sold on science?
In India.
I find that shocking.
I know,
the home
shocking.
of the chakra. It's shocking.
I know. It is shocking. It is shocking.
I mean, it just makes me, as I listen to you talk, I just think Big Pharma's bought out, the media, because it's not that there is an interest. Years ago, and I want to say 15 years ago, I went to a conference. It was a one-day thing where they were talking about marketing your practice. But it turned out that it was a very allopathic medicine conference. And they were talking about, and just in this one portion, about the demographics of people that went to alternative practitioners, and they put up this pie chart showing, this is the piece of the pie that is paid for by insurance, the dollar out of pocket. They were looking at out of pocket. And this is the piece of pie of what people were paying out of pocket for alternative care, chiropractic, just different kinds of things. And it was a pretty startling number, even though it was still a small number, because it wasn't covered by insurance, and these people were paying the full amount for these services. And I think that number has grown exponentially in the last number of years.
Yeah, it has indeed. And alternative physicians are doing quite well in America. That's the good news. But the bad news is, again, very few insurance companies are still supporting it. Some are. Some acupuncture, for example, is supported by many insurance companies. But homeopathy, Britain did a major turn about homeopathy. They completely banned. People cannot even talk about homeopathy officially anymore. A doctor cannot even suggest officially homeopathy. They have to do it in private according to British law. So it's just absolutely abominable how powerful these organizations, allopathic organizations, have become. They're pharmaceuticals and all. It's almost like a conspiracy going on against health in America and elsewhere, in all the Western countries where scientific materialism is very solid.
Well, we could get into a whole talk about that with Big Brother and, reducing the surplus population.
It's a subject which is impossible to avoid because, people complain about medical costs without realizing what is increasing the cost is the power of these people. That is what is increasing the cost. There shouldn't be so much cost. People are making enormous profit out of illness. That is why so much cost.
But there's also so much that people can do that would be much more cost effective, on their own or with working with someone that does alternative medicine, working with supplements, and not having to. I mean, my husband takes a prescription that costs $300 a month, and our insurance covers parts of it. But it's $300 a month. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I haven't quite figured out how to give him supplements to fix what's going on. We're working on other things. But it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So what we have to do, I already have started working with a alternative medicine university, sort of internet university, International Quantum University of Integrative Medicine, we call it. And we are training people to in alternative medicine, integrative medicine, all these ideas that I'm sharing with you: quantum medicine, quantum doctor, healing using creativity, healing using vital energy, and changing mental beliefs and all that. So we are actually teaching people, and unfortunately, AMA cannot keep us out of business entirely. There are ways to get around it, and we have discovered it, and people can get a degree and practice, and so availability situation will change as these universities become more common and traditional education, there is, of course, already traditional alternative medicine institutions too for educating, but they too are quite costly. But this, with the help of the internet, we can educate people. This is the best part of it, that much of alternative medicine can be done by yourself. So we teach people medical management, and health management is going to be a major profession, because those are the people who will tell people that, look, you can do a few things by yourself and you will save so much money. Now, it is that kind of incentive that people are looking for. If you tell someone that you can save $300 a month by doing just these simple things, people won't hesitate, because that's a very, very good incentive to do something. If yoga helps you save $300 a month, anybody would do yoga. And that motivation is to be there. Motivation has to be there, and we are providing that motivation by educating properly.
With the new year, we have the Obamacare coming in, which, if we look at, Canadian healthcare, and I'll give an example for the listeners if they're not familiar, not that I'm overly familiar with Canadian healthcare. A friend of mine's sister who lives in Canada was had a parachuting accident, her parachute didn't open up correctly, and she broke her back. And, fortunately, she is still, she wasn't paralyzed because of it, and they treated her in the emergency room, and it took 6 months for her to get into a doctor to actually evaluate her. That is Canadian healthcare. Now, what's going to happen in the United States if we follow the same path where we're in pain, or we have something going on and we cannot get into the doctor, or the medication that we want to take, or, we have availability issues? I don't know. I just see a lot of potential problems coming out of that whole scenario, that someone, the training that you're offering your students, or the work that I do, or, the number of their energy healers can start filling in for some of these holes and gaps if they would give us a chance.
Right. Exactly. And it is just a matter of educating, because the two are complementary. One should always remember that allopathy need not be excluded. So we don't have to directly come into competitive combating with the allopathic physicians. These are methods that are available if people knew that they can do it while waiting. But this, one should not get these stories mixed up either, because there are, when you hear about the 6 months and stuff, it is a little bit of exaggeration too. It can happen in some cases. I'm not denying it. But my experience I have had medicine problems in England, in Brazil, in Canada, and my experience is that medical help is available quite quickly. That is my experience. But of course, it's a single person's experience, a few simple cases, so it should not count that either. I'm sure your story is absolutely authentic, but those are special cases, though. Generally, healthcare is pretty much available, and emergency healthcare continues to be available and will be available. Right now it is available, but at what cost to those of us who have insurance? Because they have to support all the people who are not paying anything about insurance, and that's what is a major cost increase. So we have to do something like Obamacare in order to handle any of that. But Obamacare, of course, is very limited. The reason is that this whole blindness to alternative energy, alternative medicine, is what is producing the cost overruns, and that Obama has not been able to take into account. So the pressure of the medicine establishment is still too strong to deal with this cost effectiveness effectively.
Well, there's the music, which means we have to go. Amit, thank you so much for coming on. I love having you on.
Well, I enjoyed this very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and I'll talk to you later. That's Dr. Amit Goswami. His book is The Quantum Doctor. His webpage is amitgoswami.org. And next week, we're going to be speaking with Anthony Sanchez about the true history of mankind, the Greys, the Anunnaki, and the Illuminati. And so I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Till next week, be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio. Point your browser to www.justenergyradio.com for more show information and to contact Dr. Rita.